Hour number 2 rolling along right here on the early line, Sirius XM channel 159 right here on the SportsGrid network. Now it might be March, and we're concentrating on our dancing shoes getting on for March Madness, but there's a lot of golf being played down in the state of Florida on the Florida Swing. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Ramirez. We welcome in our resident PGA expert. It's Keith Stewart. Keith, how are we doing this morning from Florida?
Well, you know what? The weather down here in Orlando is a lot better than expected. So let's get to this. Another limited field, 69 guys, $20 million on the line. Let's see if the superstars can finally figure it out in 2024.
About a month away from Augusta. Can't wait to see it play out. Warmer weather, hopefully on the way here for us in the Northeast. But we always like to recap before we move ahead here. The Cognizant Classic, which if I'm reading this correctly, first-time winner Austin Eckroat at a 17 under par cashes in a ticket for $1.6 million. But the questions here also, some other guys in the field like Rory McIlroy. What happened last week? What did we see? And how can we use this for the future here, Keith?
Well, Rory McIlroy, he was the favorite last week. His odds were about 7-1 to start the week. Austin Eckroat, for the 8th week in a row, gives us a long shot bomb to win on the PGA Tour. He started the week at 90-1, and he came through on what was Sunday, Monday. Huge rain delay on Sunday, kind of broke up the final round, made it a little choppy. The real story there was Shane Lowry. He had the lead going into the final round, never got the tee off really until late Sunday. He comes out Monday. He kind of fell apart. Rory had the bear trap catch him there on Saturday. That put him back in the pack. He had kind of a mediocre finish, but Rory's coming to Bay Hill and the Arnold Palmer Invitational, a place where he's played 9 times. And in those last 7, he's had top 13 finishes. He's won in 2018. He's never finished outside the top 30. So if it's time for Rory to win here in the States, this might be a perfect fit.
Well, Oklahoma State alum there, Austin Eckroat. So congrats to him there getting it done. I never thought the tournament was going to end. And it's in my backyard. And I was like, please let this thing just be over. They say, horses for courses here. And I think you just mentioned it, right? So you've got Rory, who's very familiar with this place. What do we know about the course, and who are some of the names that we should be looking at that are really their game fits this place to a T?
So in my life as a PGA professional, I spent 5 years living here in Orlando. I worked across the lakes over at Isleworth Country Club during the Tiger years. So I've played Bay Hill a number of times. And what most people miss about this place and the Dick Wilson design back in 1961 is that it's extremely repetitive, which makes it predictive when it comes to the leaderboards year after year after year. We see the same names up there. We're going to see your Scotties. We're going to see your Rorys. We're also going to see your Adam Scotts. We're going to see ball strikers. A lot of the holes tend to repeat themselves as we go through the different 9s. Take, for example, the 3rd hole, dogleg left around water, followed by a straight uphill par 5 and number 4, and then a short par 4 downhill number 5. Well, it repeats itself all over again on holes 11, 12, and 13. If you could play some of the holes here well, you could play all of the holes here well. And that's what you look for. Long approach shot, guys. Over 200 yards, about a third of the approach shots are coming in from over 200. The longest set of par 3s on tour. Those are the places that I'm targeting. And a lot of guys will say, hey, Bermuda grass putting in Florida, Bay Hill is probably the least predictive when it comes to Bermuda grass on the greens of all the Florida stops. So for me, I'm lowering the weight that I have on that, and I'm definitely raising it on approach and a little bit of scrambling because these greens are tough to hit.
Last tournament, Keith, we did have some rain in the forecast. If we're taking a look at this 4-day setup, are we expecting any winds down in Florida, the temperatures, and also any precipitation that we might be able to watch out for here?
Well, we got lucky today. It was supposed to rain today and tomorrow. Now it just looks like it's going to maybe wash out the Pro-Am tomorrow. It's supposed to rain all day. It's going to make the conditions soft. And we talked about this last week. They've had a horrible winter down here in Florida. And whether it's down there where Joe is or it's up here in Orlando where I am, we haven't seen the sun. Turf conditions just aren't great. The golf course is going to play soft just like it did last week. The last 5 years, the average winning score is 8 under par. I expect the guys to get past that easily this week, maybe even by Saturday. You bring up the wind. Saturday looks like the windiest day, but it doesn't overall look all that challenging considering how soft the golf course is going to be.
So, you mentioned it, Keith. It looks very chalky. Some of these numbers here up at the top, but it's a smaller field, I believe, right? So, guys like Scheffler should be up at the top there, and Rory. Has anybody of you, since you've been up in Orlando? I've been looking on milk cartons for Victor Hovland. Has he been anywhere? Have you found him at all? Because I'm not even sure if he's still on tour at this point.
You bring up a great point. That's one of the first guys I went to look for. The guy's still smiling, and I don't understand why. I mean, I don't get it. He just hasn't shown up this year, and he finished the year on a torrid pace. I mean, he wins the last two events of the year, the Tour Championship. We expected big things this thing, but the short game's just not there. Now, this is a place that's tailored for Victor Hovland and his long iron game and how accurate it is with the driver. But you know what? Between the 84 bunkers and everything else around the green, I just don't see this as the comeback spot for him. For me, I think it suits much more of a well-rounded guy at the top of that betting board, and that's a guy like Patrick Cantlay. He's been getting off the hot starts. He's, first in round one scoring average on the PGA Tour. He's sitting right there below 20-1. It's well documented. He was sick on Sunday at Riviera. He should have won that thing. I believe that this place is going to play much like Riv did, like a major championship setup. And of course, I think that when it comes to that, and you need to be well-rounded, there's two guys that come to the top of everyone's list. That's Xander and Cantlay. And Xander's, he's on the same milk carton, at the post office or on the wanted sign. I mean, it's like, where's he with Victor Hovland? I don't know. But I tell you what, I think Patrick Cantlay will show up this week at that top of the board.
Ooh.
Favorites up there, Scotty Scheffler plus 650 price here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Rory McIlroy plus 850. Let me ask you this question. Last year's winner, Kurt Kitayama, brought home a nice paycheck here. He's a 90-1 price to win again. When you handicap these type of events, do you get any bonuses here for winning in the past and how that factors over to the next year?
Well, as I go back to what I said before, Donnie, this place can be very predictable. So Kurt Kitayama is going to feel good coming here. Now, he hasn't played great as of late, but you know what? He's going to feel comfortable coming back in. And there's other guys that have played great here over the years in that middle tier or even higher zone, like a guy like Keegan Bradley, who's coming off 2 straight top 10s, or a guy like Adam Scott, who's been playing great already this 2024. I mean, yes. So to answer your question, I would look at those old leaderboards for all the points I raised earlier. If you could play Bay Hill about 9 of the holes, you could play all 18 of the holes because they tend to repeat themselves. And the guys that are good here year after year after year.
So that means Matt Fitzpatrick needs to be on my card, right?
Hey, Matt Fitzpatrick was good last week at the Cognizant, and I was fading him because he's had a rough year with the approach. But you know what? I mean, he's in that range, though, with a couple other guys that I maybe like even more. When it comes to the early line, I like my early leans. And the big decision in my mind right now is the guys at Wake Forest. Is it going to be Cam Young's time to break through, or is Will Zalatoris going to seal the deal that he started at Farmers, he built upon at Riviera at the Genesis, and now – I mean, he's a ball striker that's also fit for this place, just like the King.
Couple seconds left here, Keith. Those early leans on the early line for this week. Who's going to take down this tournament in your mind?
I mentioned Cantlay. I also want to go with Sam Burns. 4 straight top 10s. He's down here on Florida grass. He's won twice in Florida. I mentioned the Wake Forest boys. In the middle of the pack, of course, Adam Scott, Keegan Bradley, and then watch out for Chris Kirk. I know he's already won this year, but he loves this place, and he's great on Bermuda grass, and he's had a really good history here. For sure, those are the guys. Those are my early leans on the early line.
Keith Stewart ready to go, our PGA expert on the countdown to Augusta. We'll be right back. Rick Horrow joins us next.